What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, I wanted to talk about something that has been floating around the community. I've seen it on Discord. I've talked about it on stream. I've seen it on Twitter as well. So, and I've seen it on YouTube as well, and other videos or comments and other videos. So. I wanted to address it and I don't know, get some ideas from people on how they feel, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself. And that is the idea that bots are going to come back in rather full force, if they ever left, right? We have already seen. So let's go over to Peak Monsters real quick. Whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let's go over to Dashboard. And you can see here that there has been a significant uptick in the amount of accounts in general over the past couple of weeks here, especially after the new year and the announcements of the Soulbound reward cards. So what's happening? Why would people be doing this? And is there a cheat code, right? So the core issue, and I've discussed this on stream, but again, a lot of other people are talking about it across the Splinterverse, is the idea that all you're going to need in the future is a little startup cost, in terms of getting your bot, right? Getting not your bot, but your account to grab a couple of the new summoners, right? A couple of the new Soulbound reward summoners, and then just play with the Soulbound reward cards all the way through. And then it becomes a machine that can feed itself with no further investment. Now, granted, you don't get any value from this, and you can't get anything, you won't be able to sell the cards in the long run, but you will get, I don't know about a lot, but you will get SPS over time if the account over the next year or 2 years can start to gain in ranking and, even if it's playing in bronze or with the ratings inflation move up to silver, you could be getting significant SPS. Now, from each individual account, you might not be getting a lot of SPS. Sure, your cards will slowly level themselves up over time. But if you do this at scale, meaning you're willing to set up, tens of thousands of accounts, as we've seen other people do, other bot farms do, then, all those little things add up quite quickly. Now, here's the thing. In theory, it sounds great, right? It sounds phenomenal. It's just like, wait a second. So I just got to set up a couple of accounts, maybe rent for a few months or a few seasons. Maybe you don't even need a rent. Maybe you just have you just go out and buy. I think somebody had mentioned on the live stream today, you just go out and you buy like $20 worth of Chaos Legion cards. And that's like your starter deck, right? Essentially. And you let that run for a season or two where you get a bunch of chests. And in those chests, you start getting the reward cards, and then you're good. You have the starter cards, and then your reward cards build up over time. And again, you don't have to touch anything. You can use any of the botting services, whichever one your heart desires, with all their different fee structures and policies. And then it's off to the races. You just have to be patient and allow it to grow over time, but you don't have to put anything else into it. So it's very appealing. I'll say that right off the bat. And I hadn't even thought about this before, but if you remember, I was making comments about the Soulbound reward cards being super powerful, that I was like, well, maybe I do want to bot a couple of extra accounts. I have some extra accounts right now, alt accounts that I made during the bull run when I first started, that are just kind of sitting idle or renting out cards, or using Splex or something like that with all my extra cards. But now maybe there's a more focused approach that I want to take. So when I was thinking about that, I was just like, well, how would I do this? I would probably want a higher level deck. But that's not what I'm talking about here, where, making a significant investment. We're talking about renting a couple cards for a season or two, or buying some level 1 BCX cards so that you're not playing with any ghost cards, and then just rolling with it. Literally just rolling with it. You let the bot run, you don't have to do anything, and it's going to earn you just small bits of SPS over time. And more importantly, as it starts to acquire more and more of these Soulbound reward cards, you just start leveling it up. Now, it will be limited by the summoner, so you will need to make sure that you're getting the summoners before you can actually start anything. But ultimately, this thing can be done at scale, and I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a massive amount of bots, daily active accounts, as well as some new player signups. I mean, check it out. Like, the spellbooks haven't popped up yet. I mean, somebody did buy 127 on December 11th, but the point is that could there be more added in? And even if it's not a bot farm, right? I'm thinking about this idea. Other people are thinking about this idea. If there's 50,000 like human players in the gamer ecosystem, and we all decide to add another one or two, that's quite a bit, right? That's another 100,000. That's another 100,000 daily active accounts that will be working towards that. So what are the pros? Well, first let's get to the cons, right? What are the cons of this? Well, ultimately, there's less SPS going around, especially at the lower levels if you decide to do the bare minimum, right? And again, I'm not recommending to do this. I'm just putting it out there more formally and trying to address it where I think that it will lead, what I think will happen, and if it is or is not something that, again, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, but where I think some of the pitfalls could potentially lie, and we're going to get to that at the end. So the cons here are there's going to be a lot less SPS, or at least it's going to be the same pool of SPS split by many more people, many more accounts, especially at probably the bronze and silver levels, if you're doing this at the bare minimum. Now, for those people who are making significant investments, right, you're not going to be playing in gold if all you have are level 1 starter cards and ghost cards, right? I mean, sure, ratings inflation might get crazy with a bunch of new accounts, but we just don't know how that's going to play out, and we don't know some of the other changes that could be happening in the game. The pros for this, again, not at the individual level, but for the whole ecosystem, is that it would encourage more spellbook purchases, which is direct company revenue. So it would look good for the numbers from a marketing perspective. Again, there is investment that's required, at least initially, but then once the bots get up and running, they could be operating on their own without any owned cards outside of the Soulbound reward cards. So again, I do look at those as positives, and I know people might think, "Oh, well, you're being deceptive with marketing, or whatever." Sure, but all marketing, all statistics is lying, right? Everybody just tries to tell a story with stats anyway. I mean, we have 100 or 200,000 like daily active players in this game. We all know what the truth is, but at the end of the day, like you can go and show that there's a lot of activity happening on this blockchain, a lot of activity that has human backing behind it, right? So that is still appealing. That is still something worthy of note and is significant. So those would be probably the main positives, is that it would be very helpful for the Splinterlands team, and it would be helpful for the marketing efforts to show that, there is interest in this game, even if it's from the same 50,000, 40,000 people that are playing. It shows that we're committed, and it shows that we are trying to get just a little bit more, right? Now, here is the big question mark and a reason why I hesitate before doing anything, right? So, and probably why I'm going to steer clear from opening a bunch of new accounts. Like I said, I have a couple of accounts that are just sitting there. So maybe grabbing an extra Archmage token or an XBot token makes sense. But in terms of like opening new accounts, it doesn't seem like I want to go down that road, because as I've said before, I'm lazy and I don't want to manage a bot farm. That's not what I got into gaming for. I want to play a fun game and hang out with cool people in the community. So, but the big question mark, and again, I'm using this as the anchor or the reasoning into why I probably won't engage in something like this, or why I'm putting out a cautionary tale, is the fact that there is SPS staking requirements that will be replacing CP at some point in the future. So there will be further stake required when you are when you are playing. Now, this could be anywhere from 3 months to who knows, right? It could come in 2024. It is on the roadmap for Q2, and my hope is that we can get it early Q2, like April, May. Just because I think that it will do wonders to having an additional utility for SPS. I know people are against it, but I think if you're going to replace CP and you want people to have stake in the game, this is going to be great. Like just do it, get it implemented as quickly as possible. And in the context of this, well, now it's just like, okay, are you going to go out and pay, however much to set up 100 bot accounts or 50 bot accounts, however much your heart desires. But in 3, 4, 5 months, sure, you can get some gains between now and then, but are you willing to chalk up however much SPS is going to be required? So again, you could be buying the SPS now in anticipation of that, but we don't know the mechanics of how it's going to work, and we don't know the actual logistics of how much SPS per league, right? I've seen numbers thrown out all across the board. I wouldn't be surprised if bronze was as low as 500 or 1,000. But again, that's just me guessing based on numbers that I've heard out there. The thing is, when you start looking at this from how many people, how many accounts can be playing and earning, 1,000 isn't really much, but there are now limitations on the amount of players that could actually be playing the game with the amount of SPS that's out there. There's only about 1 billion tokens, and by the end of the year, I think we'll be at like 1.2, 1.3, not counting any burns. So again, there's a finite amount of SPS, which means that scaling up isn't really as easy as it seems. So sure, your bots could be playing in bronze, but all of a sudden, your soulbound reward cards, they start leveling up, and all of a sudden they can play in silver or they can play in gold. But guess what? Maybe you have to stake 25,000 SPS per account in gold. Like, that's significant, or 10,000 SPS per account in gold. It starts to, so again, we don't know what that will entail, but I have a suspicion or a feeling. Again, I have no idea what the team or the higher ups or Matt are thinking about this, but I have a feeling that the reason that they're probably not worried about this happening with soulbound accounts is because they know SPS staking is around the corner. And sure, will people try to exploit it for a couple of months? Maybe. How far will they get? I have no idea. It depends on how productive these cards are, how good the soulbound reward cards end up being. But at some point, there will be a gate, right? There will be a gate named SPS, and we don't know what that's going to do to the overall economy. So that's all I have in this video. I just wanted to, like I said, address it kind of head on and where my thoughts are about it, because again, it does seem in many ways like a cheat code, especially if there are delays with the validators, which again seem to be a prerequisite for getting that SPS staking requirement out. They need to have SPS delegation, SPS renting. So hopefully we do get that in Q2. But between now and then, right, January 31st is when these new cards go live. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more accounts in the system. And maybe that's already happened, right? Maybe the smart people have already gone in and done that. And we're just talking about it now, but we're late, right? So, I mean, I guess it's not really late, because you can still go out and get cards for super cheap if you wanted to. But just a thought, and a place that, or something that I wanted to start a discussion with, on this channel. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We'll continue the conversation there. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next video and see you around the game. Take care.